of nonsensical conversations before we actually start talking about fantasy football. So just want to give you a heads up. We are live and we are chatting.
Awesome.
But I was losing it at all the Spiller conversations that were happening following his pro day.
That feels like years ago. Was that 1 day ago, 2 days ago?
That was one day, I think.
That was 1 day ago? That feels like an entirely different era. Like because the Tyreek Hill story was like a story that would last. You'd think like a 2-week series of tweets, like just the Schefter tweets alone would be like he'd tweet one out 1 day, another out 3 days later, etc. And instead, like it was as though you hit like sim mode on Madden franchise, and it just happened really, really quickly. And over the course of like one bus ride, I went from like, oh, Tyreek Hill potentially moved. That'll be surprising if it happens. To like, oh, it's over.
It's done.
Going to the Dolphins.
It was he's on the move. There's 2 teams that actually have trade offers for him, and there's a trade that's been consummated, and now he signed a new guaranteed contract. You're like, what? Jesus Christ, dude. I was thinking about it on the way home. It's like BDSM, right? This is what the NFL offseason has been like, right? Like you start, like your kinks start off. Well, so your kinks start off light, right? You're like, oh, we'll just spank my butt. But we're at the stage of the NFL offseason now where like you need to be choked, hanging from like a closet, like while getting beat with bamboo sticks to like.
We are 90 seconds into being live tonight.
This is an awesome show.
Being beaten on his ass with bamboo sticks.
It's because like nothing phases us anymore. You know,
it is the craziest offseason that I can remember.
Like Tyreek
I really do not. I don't remember one this packed of huge news. Usually, we're like making more out of something than what it actually is. There's actually just a ton of huge storylines this year.
Yeah.
Well, somebody put out a tweet. What was it, yesterday or earlier today? It was like DeAndre Hopkins having a meltdown and refusing to play, for the Texans again, changed the landscape of fantasy football or of the NFL football and the NFL landscape forever. So, I mean, I kind of took that tweet to heart because it's like, dude, now teams are making trades, like ridiculous-ass trades, just because they realize that the salary cap implications aren't nearly as bad as what they were led to believe from the 2011 or prior to the 2011 CBA.
Well, that's why we have to thank Howie Roseman and who is it, Les Snead in LA for going, you know what? These players are bad. We do not care if we have to eat all the cap in the world. Just get them off our rosters. And then the rest of the NFL looked at that and said, wait, that's an option? We can do that. And players are more, what's the word I'm looking for? Empowered. Yeah. Players are basically looking at the NBA and went, I'd like to go play with my friends, or I'd like to go play somewhere else, or I'd like to get away from Aaron Rodgers and all his shenanigans.
Yeah, that's exactly what that was, by the way.
Yeah, God, yeah. That's like
I think Stephon Diggs even tweeted today when he saw all these moves. He's just like, what the hell? Okay, time to get paid.
Is he next? Because those are the 3, right? Like
DK.
I mean, those are the 3 that are like the same age. They were the 3 consensus top 3 wide receivers last year. These vets, like, some are gone. Is Diggs next? What's his deal?
All right, let's hop into this intro real quick so we can actually get started on the show. Normally, Dave even asked. Dave's like, damn, did I miss the cutoff intro? Because we're actually talking football before the show actually starts. So let's do this. Yeah, it's very strange.
Usually, Jacob, start saying something.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. We have another episode coming at y'all. Of course, you have myself, Shane, and Jacob, as per norm. but we had to bring in a special guest with all the chaos that's going on in the NFL. We brought in Dwain McFarland. What's going on, Dwain? How you doing tonight, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Love the intro music. I feel really relaxed. Like, this is an intervention, though, so it's like I was on the couch with Bloom. It's very relaxed. I'm only dealing with one person, but now I have like three guys, like three of you coming at me. I'm trying to think, like, what's something I need an intervention around? I don't know. I'm
Utilization
through it. Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
just
probably
like charting slot snaps.
yes, like up with eyes bleeding. Yeah, my wife would appreciate. Yeah, my wife would appreciate that intervention.
Tell your friends we are having an intervention tonight. Make sure you guys shoot us a retweet, of course, over there on Twitter. And if you're on Facebook, let me see you in here because Facebook's been a little bit absent lately, but YouTube has not. So if you are over there on Twitter, make sure you guys come join us over there at youtube.com/fantasyintervention because we can't see the questions from Twitter. We can't see the comments. We can't see any of that. So come join us from Twitter over at youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Make sure you guys, of course, hit subscribe while you're in the show and let us know your thoughts. I already see the chat is on fire. We got Thomas, Toronto, Ricky, Paul's his life. Let's go. Let's go ahead and break down this episode real quick. And, I mean, we got to kick it off with the Tyreek Hill trade, right?
Who?
Oh, the cheetah. Sorry, the cheetah. Not even Tyreek Hill, the cheetah. Over there with Tua and Shane. What's going to happen with the value of this entire team? Is it all pretty much shot now that we have everybody just kind of leeching off each other? Or do we think that Mike McDaniel can actually find a way to provide fantasy value for all these new players and the players that existed there before?
I don't know. Could Kyle Shanahan find fantasy value for Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk? Is Tua better than Jimmy G? I mean, I don't know. I saw that he has good deep ball percentages in college and every other year in the pros. Although he's only been in the pros 2 years, so I'm not.
You're supposed to be the Tua lover on this show. If you're not going to fight for Tua, I don't know who will.
Look, I say this all the time. Like, just because you get good players around you doesn't make you a better player. It certainly helps that if you get the ball in the Tyreek Hill hands, that he's liable to score literally at any moment. I think it's going to be an insane offense to watch with Waddle and him. Gesicki, I was hoping was going to break out into an elite tier of tight end. I think that's out the window.
That's done.
Yeah, that's completely dead. Cedric Wilson, if anyone was buying him because they're silly like that.
Cedric Wilson was entrapped. Like, that's entrapment.
He was.
They entrapped him, and now he'll never play.
That was so messed up, dude. That
was messed up. But if that happens in real life, right? If you're offered a job or whatever, and then someone comes along and offers you something better, you got to take the better. And that's all the Dolphins did. They were like, they were feeling really good. Like, oh, we got Cedric Wilson. That's not bad. Nice little role player. And then this Tyreek Hill thing just fell in their lap. And they're like, well, we have to do that.
Cedric Wilson is draft.com. Like, FanDuel purchased draft.com, and then they just buried it. And then we never heard from it again. And they never did interesting best ball content. Like, that's Cedric Wilson. They're like, we want you in here. We're taking you out of the free market. And then they just buried him alive on the depth chart. Never to be heard from again.
Dwain, did the Dolphins do Cedric Wilson dirty over there? And is Tua Tagovailoa better than Jimmy G? I need to answer both those questions. I need answers.
Yeah, I think they're comparable at this point, is all we can say. Like, as far as Jimmy G and Tua, like, they're average to below average NFL quarterbacks. It's not like the guy you want running your team, but you can get by with it until you find, what it is you really want your quarterback to be. I would say, Tua's younger, so, maybe there's a chance he could still break out. We've seen it with Jimmy G for long enough to know that's probably not happening. I think as far as Tyreek Hill goes, I agree with Shane. I think, when you look at it in this offense, we know it's, they just signed a fullback in Ingle. They've already got multiple tight ends. I think they're going to be multiple in the offense they run. It's not like they're going to be in 11 personnel all the time, which I think is bad. It's bad for Gesicki. He's not going to be out there a lot of times when they're in 21 personnel, which means when they go to throw from those formations, he won't be there. Plus, the target competition is going to be way stiffer now that you have Waddle and Hill. I do think both guys can be top 24 receivers, but I think it's going to be tough, like where their ADPs are today, right? Tyreek Hill's in the top 5. You got Jalen Waddle in most drafts is right around 12, sometimes 11, 13, 14, somewhere in there. Sometimes drafted as early as like 8. So I mean, he's in that range where he's going to have to cool off, some. And so is Tyreek Hill. Like I could see Hill finishing, 8 or 9, wide receiver 8 or 9, still putting up a good season. You see Waddle finish like 15. You could see him flip, honestly. Like we don't know how they're going to use them. Are they just going to use them interchangeably? Because you can make an argument that Tyreek Hill is really going to be the X, that he'll do more of what Ayuk was doing, and then you'll get Waddle doing more of what Samuel was doing. Or you could argue it the other way around. Like both guys have a diverse skill set, but we've seen Hill work deep in the NFL. We haven't seen that yet from Waddle. But I think both guys – can come through with top 24 seasons. I think, though, right now, I want to see what ADP does. Like, where does it settle in? Because right now it's too high on both guys, especially like I'm mostly speaking redraft right now. So I know a lot of this is really a dynasty show, but I think it goes for both, right? When we're talking about these two players.
Yeah, I think with the two, it depends. Like, we saw Kirk Cousins, and Shane will get all hot and bothered because he loves Kirk Cousins so much. But we saw Kirk Cousins, who let's say Tua takes a step forward, right? Like, and I think it's within Tua's range of outcomes to become Kirk Cousins. Then let's say he takes a moderate step forward, he becomes Kirk. Then I think was it 2019, 2018? I think 2018 was the year that Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs were both wide receiver ones in a Kirk Cousins offense. But neither were high end, right? They were both more like mid to low end wide receiver ones. I think we could see something like that, where if the two converge, they could both be top 12, but neither would be top 6. I think if one of them, like if Hill is going to pay off his wide receiver 5 price, then Waddle, I think, is more of a mid wide receiver 2. I think that's probably where they end up cumulatively. But primarily, I mean, there's not a lot of there's a lot of targets I think that are available before Waddle's targets get eaten into. Like Waddle, I think, has his 25%. I think Hill can take 25%. I mean, I don't even know if Parker's still going to be on this team, but like Parker, I think, has been washed for a while. I'm not really sure what he's going to be doing other than playing split end in this offense on occasional 3 wide receiver sets and like not really doing a whole lot. And then, I don't know how much Cedric Wilson plays. Like, I don't know. Gesicki has never really been a volume earner aside from times when other players have been injured around him. So I'm not entirely sure that he's going to be commanding a lot of volume next to Hill.
And even then, he hasn't always come through. Like even in those situations,
right. Like even last year when Parker was back, like I don't even think Parker's very good, but like even last year when Parker and Waddle were both playing, Gesicki's numbers were way down. Like he was basically only being a real value, and it was literally just him, Waddle, and like Mac Hollins, and just like non-NFL players, right? Like they were throwing a lot of footballs to just non-NFL players last year. So like I think we're going to see targets come away from the Durham Spice and the Mac Hollins and the Albert Wilsons and like all those guys before they start coming away from Waddle. But I still don't expect them to be a super high pass volume team either. Like this is still coming from the San Francisco offense. They're in a pretty middling division. So we'll see what we get out of Miami. I think the Tua conversation is really interesting in Dynasty, though, if we can have that conversation.
We will. We'll get on to that conversation. But before we do, let's answer this trade question.
Yes,
real quick for Jose.
immediately.
Go. Yeah. He wants to know if you should trade the rookie pick, 110, and 201 for Tyreek.
Yes.
I would run and not walk.
Yes.
Dwayne, you're hesitating.
No, I'm not hesitating. I'm good with shocked. It. I would be doing it.
He's shocked that we're being asked this. Jose, you need to go accept that immediately. And when they try to reverse the trade, say no takes backs.
All right, let's go ahead and hop on it too. We're going to start out with Dwayne on this one.
Talk about Tyreek Hill some more.
What else do you want to say about Tyreek Hill?
Well, there's the dynasty. There's the dynasty aspect of it.
Let's play down the list. Let's go down the list on Tyreek Hill, right? So Hill, there's this big tier in dynasty wide receivers. Let's throw Waddle into this too, because both of them were kind of going in the same range. Like there was this big tier. There was like Chase Jefferson, clearly top 2 dynasty wide receivers, and then after that there was like 10 guys that went in very different orders depending on what startup I've been in. Like I'll list off names, and then tell me when you would take Tyreek Hill. Okay.
All right, I'm done with that.
AJ Brown.
Oh,
so if you say nothing, you would take the guy I'm saying over Hill. Okay. Cooper Kupp. Okay. Devontae Adams.
Oh, man. We're getting squishy.
CeeDee
You're gonna have
Lamb.
to way down that list for me.
CeeDee Lamb. Okay. Stephon Diggs.
I'll take Hill.
Okay. How about Deontay Johnson?
I don't like Deontay Johnson, but that's not my line right there.
Okay,
like
T.
Deontay
Higgins.
Johnson's way down.
I'm taking Tyreek over T. Higgins.
Okay, here's the interesting one. How about Jalen Waddle? Who would you rather have in Dynasty now, Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill?
I had Jalen Waddle ahead of Tyreek Hill prior to the trade. I like Jalen Waddle immensely more than I like Tyreek Hill because of the contract situation, and we didn't know where he was going to end up. And now that he's with the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill didn't really move that much for me, but Jalen Waddle actually moved down like a notch or two.
It's funny that Tyreek, when Waddle was coming out last year, we kept saying like, "Oh, you know who he reminds us of? Tyreek Hill." I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill, but he kind of reminds you of him. And now they're like literally battling to the death. Jesus, man, this is, and I'm obviously guessing, but I'm going to go with Waddle. He's younger, so that's literally going to be my only weight on that side.
Yeah, that's the way I would lean too. Like, I would understand both sides of that. Like, I'm looking at my list here. I was catching up, but like, I'm definitely taking Jefferson and Chase over Hill. I'm still going Devontae Adams over Hill. It's really close though. What about you guys with like Debo? You're going Debo over Hill?
I forgot about Debo, but yeah, I would take Debo over Hill.
I would too.
Yeah. I was previously.
And I would
stick with Diggs just because I like the quarterback situation.
Yeah, I'll
better.
take Diggs over Hill because they're like the same age, and one of them has Josh Allen.
That's the way I am.
I have Pittman over Hill.
That's ridiculous.
I would take Hill over Pittman. Yeah,
Pittman is like maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 wide receivers down.
Yeah, Dwayne, in case you've never seen this before, Chase just likes to blurt out things like he has Tourette's. And things like, I'll take Pittman over Tyreek Hill.
Guys, I do a podcast with Ian Hartitz like every day. Like, I mean, I go all over the place. Like, you guys are gonna have to speed up. Come on. Like,
no, I sincerely have Pittman above him. I think that he has a overall trajectory to have a longer lifespan of projected value from year to year, and I think that he outproduces Hill starting this year. I have him significantly higher. Well, not significantly higher, but I do have him solidified ahead of him.
Okay.
All right,
go Colts. If that comes true, then my life's going to be great, I guess. So that's a plus for me.
Is that all the Matt Ryan?
I figured Jacob's real question is like, does he take Amon-Ra St. Brown over Tyreek Hill?
God, stop.
I mean, it's certainly closer than Pittman.
Wait,
I agree. I have Amon-Ra above Pittman as well.
Obviously, like not even in the same tier.
Oh my God! All right.
I don't understand why you keep. Okay, I don't like Michael Pittman. Like I like him like as a fan of the team that he plays on, and I like wish him well. Like every Sunday, I like root for nothing but the best of Michael Pittman. But in Dynasty, like no, I don't like Michael Pittman at value, and I certainly don't like him way above value. And I love Amon-Ra. I mean, I wouldn't take Amon-Ra St. Brown over Tyreek Hill. I would not do that. I'm not quite that crazy. But Tyreek Hill definitely moves down to the bottom of this tier for me. Like I sort of, it's a weird tier because you have all these really young guys. Like you have the Lamb and the Brown and the Metcalf and all that stuff and DJ Moore. And then you have like kind of the middle-aged guys, Deontay and Debo in there. I'm taking, I think, all those guys over Hill now.
Did you just call Debo and Deontay middle-aged?
In wide receiver terms, yeah.
25,
26 is middle-aged.
Are they 27?
Well, Debo
that's old.
this season.
That's 27 is old.
Okay.
That's the apex.
You're right. My apologies.
All right, so let's
anyway.
hop over to Tua real quick because we need to move on, or else we're going to spend the whole entire podcast over here talking about.
What if we just talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown instead?
Oh God, no! I'd rather talk about DPJ. So we have Tua Tagovailoa.
This is a dress again.
Who is getting pushed into the top 12 quarterbacks. I don't think he belongs there in any stretch of the imagination, but that's where people are pushing him. They're going as far as they're as high as I think I saw QB 12 today. I also saw a lot of QB 14s, QB 15s. I think that he belongs in the range of a high
Dynasty.
QB.
Folks are pushing him this high.
Yeah, Dynasty. Yeah.
And are we seeing trades for like him at this value? I'm sure
it's been a day. I'm gonna try. I have some Tua.
It's too early to say probably, but
I have some Tuas hanging around, and I put out the ones that I would be asking for are I would want to know how much I have to add to Tua to get Lance. I'd want to know how much I have to add to Tua to go get like the really elite, like the Lamar Kyler tier. I would love to know if I could turn Tua into Justin Fields right now, or Trevor Lawrence.
So wait.
Maybe Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, yeah. But I'm going to tell you right now, moving from Tua to one of the actual elite quarterbacks like Lamar or Kyler, Tua to me, and even with this move, Tua is just like an ancillary piece. Like it's not really moving the needle.
I mean, I agree, but I'm just saying like these are the things I want to know.
Buying the hype,
if I'm the Tua owner, I would go to the Lamar owner and say, hey, how much do I have to add? And if he says 2 firsts and a kidney, I say thanks very much and have a lovely evening.
So wait, Jacob, you're talking about how Tua and Jimmy G are the exact same player, yet you're trying to go acquire Jimmy G's backup right now.
Haha, that's a good point. Someone kick him off the show. And then the other ones, I would love to know like how if I go like can I get like Tom Brady plus like how much can I get like and just get a more productive quarterback this year and then see just like what like first maybe plus on top of that on top. I'd love to know how much I can get on top of Cousins or Carr or Rodgers for Tua. Like these are the kind of things I'd want to know. We'll see where it goes with Tua. I don't know. What I'll say is this: I've started this series called Thinking About Thinking, and I'm going to write my next article. I was going to write about this anyways, but Tua provides like an excellent example, but about how people think about ranges of outcomes. And Tua, I think at this point is largely a bimodal asset. And what I mean by bimodal asset is there's sort of 2 groups along its distribution. So if you think of like a normal distribution curve, it goes like this, right? And bimodal curve would go kind of like this, right? And there's sort of, that's what we're asking with Tua. Like, is he a short-term option or is he a long-term option? Because we don't really know if he's good yet. He's been kind of middling. And to me, like Jalen Waddle doesn't actually shift the tenor of what he is as an asset. I think he's still largely bimodal. I think the most important question with Tua is still, is he actually a good quarterback? And so at each little part of his range of outcomes, that Tyreek Hill improves him, right? It's like, say Tua reaches his ceiling. Now it's a little bit better because of Tyreek Hill. Say Tua is just like a short-term middling quarterback. Well, he's going to be scoring a little bit more points because Tyreek Hill is there. But it doesn't change the entire tenor of his asset class. So if anything, what's weird is oftentimes when we see these middling assets, they're actually more sensitive to situational change in the market. And so when you get this major increase in value, like a Tyreek Hill spike, people will see something like Tua, who has a wide range of outcomes, and they'll move him more drastically than they would say if Tyreek Hill went to the Chargers or the Giants. When in reality, like Justin Herbert would be like a tiny move up because he doesn't have that much to go. In reality, like Daniel Jones should have actually gotten like a larger boost if he got a Tyreek Hill because he's more short-term. And so condensing that production in the immediate should actually have a larger sway than on Tua, where we're looking and expanding over a longer term. So my point being is that I think that if the market reacts too sensitively to this, they move them up too much, like depends on what your priors are, but I think that that'll be an inefficient move up just based on that the bet really doesn't change. And that Tyreek Hill ultimately is just like a small shift along every little part of his range rather than drastically changing what kind of asset he is.
Jacob, we just lost every single one of our listeners, and nobody's here anymore.
I don't understand why. Like every time I try to make like a smart point, but then you start talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's what keeps the people.
Oh, it's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
People love DPJ, man.
Dude, they do. No, I understand exactly where you're coming from with this, and it's kind of interesting to break down because we could see all these different shifts that Tua is experiencing over the past 3 months actually increase his value to a point where it's like, oh man, he could actually go off. But in all reality, I mean, he's still exactly the quarterback that he was last year. Dwayne, where do you have Tua ranked right now?
I haven't even adjusted for Dynasty, but I mean, I'm just looking at it right now, like eyeballing it. Like he's not going to get to 12. Like I don't know how someone would get into 12 if that's really where he's going. Like probably somewhere around 16, 17. He's not really going to move much for me. I've got him at 20.
Do you have him? Let me ask you this: do you have him over Justin Fields?
No. Okay. No, I have Trey Lance, Justin Fields ahead of him. I would still have Matthew Stafford ahead of him. I'm with Jacob. I don't see this moving things much. And even though Jacob said it like in a really smart way, like the way I think about it, the simplest term, right, is just what you talked about with the ranges of outcomes. Like I don't expect Tua to all of a sudden turn into this huge different player with Tyreek Hill. I think I could get a little more out of Tua now. So like if I can move him, I mean, I'm looking to move Tua right now.
Yeah. If anybody's giving you a QB1 prices for him, dude, slam accept that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I already hit up the guy in my league that has Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I was like, come on, man. Like, you got to go all in at this point. Like, you just need to go ahead and put your chips down.
He's probably having a tough day, though. Like, if you have Waddle and Tyreek Hill, it's like, oh, shit, I just got 2 assets killed by the same trade.
Well, he texted me first. Like, that was his text. He's like, well, my day sucks. And it was a picture of a beer and, his roster with Waddle and Hill. And I said, well, look, I have Tua. Problem solved.
Yeah, I'd get him Gesicki too, and Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert the whole game. I do think it's like fascinating from an NFL perspective that I think that, like, if there's ever an opportunity where it makes sense. So Adam Harstad makes this great point where it's just generally inefficient to pay an asset to pay fair market value, right? Because like in a perfectly competitive market,
give up draft capital just to then end up paying fair market
value.
On the
like because in a perfectly competitive market, like if that's what Tyreek Hill is worth, you shouldn't be paying a draft pick for the right to pay someone their value, right? That's just an inefficient choice. I think if it's such a circumstance where it makes sense, it's this one where I think the Dolphins have a quarterback who you kind of need to win on the rookie contract, because I don't think that he's actually good enough where you want to be paying him $20 million plus a year. So like, if you're going to win, I think you either end up winning with a different quarterback than Tua, or you end up winning with Tua this year or next year. So I think like consolidating, you're in a position right now where you have cap space to play with because you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, and you're in a position where whatever those picks, like if you think this is a window, this is your Tua window is in the rookie deal, like consolidating that value to align in a given window, and this being that window, I think actually makes a little bit of sense. So I actually don't mind this like real life football in terms of saying like, here's what we have with Tua, let's make the most of it.
Like the picks ended up not bothering me. Like early in the day, I say early, like the true trade broke like an hour later. But when we first heard it, it was multiple firsts. Like I was out. I'm like, I'm not giving up 2 firsts, especially if it's got to be one of the ones next year for the Dolphins. Like I wouldn't have done that. But then when it ended up just being the 29th pick overall, the 50th pick this year in the draft, then there's like a couple of 4th and a 5th. Like, those 4th and 5ths are not that big of a deal. Like I was much more okay with the deal. But if it was going to cost them 2 first-round picks, like I just thought that the Dolphins had done too good of a job of building up this capital. And I just didn't want to see them blow it all on Hill just in case it isn't Tua. I do get your point, though. Like, if it's going to happen, let's find out now. And if it's not, we'll move on from Tua. So, I mean, I get it. But if it had been the 2 firsts, I would have been out.
Yeah, and we see what Stafford was able to do with actual weapons on his offense since losing Calvin Johnson years ago. So let's go ahead and dive into the Browns situation. And I don't want to talk too much about, DeShaun Watson, obviously, but I do want to talk about the weapons that are surrounding him and the weapons that could end up taking a hit. So I did a little thread yesterday kind of looking into Chubb's situation. And when we look at the red zone opportunities for Baker Mayfield versus DeShaun Watson, they were almost identical. DeShaun Watson had like an extra 80 passing attempts or something like that, ran the ball less. But DeShaun Watson ran the ball on 19.2% of the plays inside the red zone. Meanwhile, he only targeted a running back on 14.1% of the plays. Hopkins saw more targets than all the other running backs combined. That all makes sense. That all checks out. Inside the 5, it got worse. He actually ran the ball on 28.6% of the opportunities inside the red zone, and only targeted a running back on 8.3% of the routes run. Now, once again, this is still very similar, actually, to Baker Mayfield and what we saw outside of the rushing attempts themselves, but when it came to the passing opportunities. So the issue becomes, right, is Watson had passed inside of the red zone on 59% of the team's plays, and his rushing attempts counted for 25.7% of the team's rushes inside of the red zone. So not only are we getting more passes inside the red zone, right, we're also seeing a lot of the rushing opportunities inside the red zone actually convert over to the quarterback versus being to the running back. Now, normally I wouldn't consider this an issue, right? But when we talk about the production for Kareem Hunt, he has 5 touchdowns on 10 catches and 12 rushing touchdowns since coming to the team inside the red zone. And Chubb has a whopping 29 rushing touchdowns or receiving touchdowns inside the red zone. We're talking about a massive dip in the potential scoring from game to game from these running backs. And there's upside that you occasionally see, like you might not get that upside anymore. In addition, we talk about how running backs actually have a direct correlation. Their breakaway run and rushing attempts actually have a direct correlation with stacked boxes. So teams that typically stack the box up against these running backs, those running backs typically see more breakaway runs, or at least more efficient breakaway runs. Teams that don't stack the box, you don't see nearly as many breakaway runs. DeShaun Watson is going to force teams to not stack the box because he can actually throw the ball. Is this an issue with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb moving forward? Kareem Hunt, I think he could end up being dead in this offense and not a fantasy asset, although he was top 5.
I hope he ends up not on this offense. Is my dream.
I don't know if they'll let him go just because they want to load up the weapons on this offense. But I mean, Nick Chubb, I think it's a major concern, especially at his ADP right now. Although it is sinking, I don't think it's nearly as low as what it should be. Jacob, we'll start with you.
I guess I just disagree. I don't understand how it's a negative for Chubb. Like Chubb doesn't catch the ball anyway. So to me, Watson not throwing the ball to running backs, no one throws the ball to Nick Chubb. The cosmic forces of the Cleveland Browns organization, humanity, my haters, have all come together, and they decided that Nick Chubb will simply never have a workload commensurate with his talent or abilities at any point in his career. And they've decided that despite being the best pure runner in the NFL for 5 years, he will never be anything but a low-end RB1, simply to troll me. And that will probably continue. But I mean, he's going to get 1 million yards per carry. I don't know. I don't know if there's an outer limit to running back efficiency. I think we're going to find out, because Nick Chubb has been over 5 yards per carry every single year of his career, despite teams playing them that only have to worry about him because his quarterbacks continually are bad. So I don't know, he might average 6 yards to carry in this offense. Maybe he should score even more touchdowns, because they should just be a way more efficient offense with DeShaun Watson. And I don't really think he gets hurt that much on the receiving end, just because it wasn't a big part of his game anyway. Hunt, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say with Hunt, because I don't know if he's going to be on this team or not. I think it really depends on what they decide to do with their cap situation, who else they want to bring in at wide receiver. I imagine a Will Fuller signing is probably imminent. So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with Hunt. Yeah, I think it's not a great spot for him if he does stay there, but I'm hoping that he ends up getting released out of this.
Shane, you obviously had a strong stance on this. The show notes that you made, I'm proud of you.
Someone brought up a good point. I mean, Chubb is much better than any back that Watson's ever played with. We're comparing what Watson did with Lamar freaking Miller, who was one of the most inefficient running backs to ever play the game of football. Carlos Hyde and the corpse of David Johnson. Comparing that to Nick Chubb, it's really not the same thing. Chubb was 14th in goal line attempts last year, within the 5. I can't see that decreasing. I don't know if Watson's smart or not, but I would think that the Browns coaching staff will figure out that you need to get Chubb the ball down there. And yeah, like you said, I think it'll open it up on rushing attempts outside of the goal line. I think it'll open up some things. I'm assuming they're not going into the season with Amari Cooper and DPJ, that they'll get a real wide receiver on the other side. It isn't going to hurt Chubb at all. And Hunt was already a sell for me anyway. So yeah, I don't have a deep story like you did, but just Chubb is an elite player. I mean, again, you're looking for reasons to fade an elite player when they don't exist.
Dwain, how are you feeling about Nick Chubb moving forward? Is this a concern at all, especially with the breakaway runs that he's had? A big part to why he's had such a high yards per carry.
Yeah, I think he's still going to have a big breakaway run rate. I mean, when you break him down across all the different types of looks, he still does well. To your point, the more you have guys further away from the box, the more likely you're not going to outrun everyone. But overall, many backs still average far less yards per carry, when they face the heavy boxes, and Chubb has still always been good in that regard. Yeah. I agree with Shane. As an elite player, I also agree with Jacob. I think overall, DeShaun Watson, who knows how many games he's going to get to play, but when he's out there, it's the tide that rises all boats. I mean, it's going to raise everybody, because the touchdown potential of the offense is only going to go higher every week. I'm already not counting on hardly any receptions from Chubb, so that doesn't really make a big difference for me either. So I'm good with where he's at, right now. And ADP, I'm not going to have a ton just because of the receivers that go in that range. But God, I would totally love to see Kareem Hunt gone from this offense, because if he's here, he's going to play, and it sucks because like Chubb's utilization is one of the most maddening things in the world, because he doesn't get to play when they have a huge lead. They give that to Hunt.
Yeah.
Whenever they get behind, they take him off the field, and that goes to Hunt. So like his game script is so narrow. It has to be basically are the Browns.
He doesn't even get that. He doesn't even get a monopoly on goal line. Like they bring Hunt in at the goal line sometimes.
He'll take the whole drive. Yes.
It's infuriating. Like there are games. I get so tilted about Chubb. I'm never in on Chubb in redraft just because I usually take wide receivers where he goes and he gets it. But I've always been such a big Chubb guy in Dynasty because I'm just like, he's so talented. The only thing that's holding him back is his situation and his usage. Those things can always change and shift between coaching staffs. Like one of these years, everything's going to come together. And now I'm like, I woke up and it's like he's 26. I'm like, I guess it's just never going to change. And then last year was the worst because last year I thought finally when Hunt missed time, I was like, oh my God, we're finally getting a full Chubb.
I did too.
Here we go. And then the first game that I remember, like he had just come off a calf injury. So I was like, all right, we're getting Chubb and no Hunt. And no one's playing him in DFS all that much because he's coming off this injury. And I just jammed him. I went full Chubb in the fucking second drive of the game. They get inside the 10 and they're like, Dearness, you're in. And I was like, okay, we're done here. Like Kevin Stefanski is an absolute hater.
We even saw some with Dontrell Hilliard earlier in his career. It's been just some weird stuff for Chubb. Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, let us know in the
is
comments.
Good, by the way. Like I think he's can really play. And if they do get rid of Hunt, I think Dearness becomes a guy who has a little bit of standalone value-ish in a best ball sense, and also just redonkulous contingent value.
I agree.
Let us know in the comments what you think about Nick Chubb and his value going forward, if he's being overdrafted right now and overvalued, or if you think that, hey, maybe you should go grab him because his efficiency could be even better in 2022. Meanwhile, you guys kept bringing up receivers, so I think it's about time that we bring up one of the biggest risers in Dynasty value. We talk about Donovan Peoples-Jones.
This guy doesn't exist. He's not a part of sport.
He's not good, so we're going to skip DPJ. No one gives a shit. Literally, no one cares.
Reception rate of any Browns receiver for intermediate
I'm going to leave the show.
Passes. Shane. Jacob, I thought that would be you leaving. I thought you'd be the one leaving at this point.
No, I'm Canadian. I'm far too polite for that. But your take is ridiculous.
You're true. Well, when
you go first because I'll come back after. You go first.
All right, fine. All right. So he had the highest completion rate for any of the Browns receivers for intermediate or deep passes, right? Then we talk about 50% of his targets were actually contested, and he still had one of the best reception rates. Meanwhile, Watson, who has really never when he does have good receivers, we see him flourish, especially downfield. He's completed 49.3% of his deep targets and 66.2% of his intermediate targets in 2020. So with DPJ running all the routes that we like to call wind sprints, he was actually comparable in yards per route run to Gallup, Calvin Ridley, and Courtland Sutton. So, if we're sitting there, we're talking about the raise in value for Sutton, right? Because all of a sudden Russell Wilson's coming down. The raise in value for Gallup because, all of a sudden we have Amari Cooper out. And then Calvin Ridley, right? Why isn't DPJ actually seeing an increase in value whatsoever?
Okay,
Shane, you're sitting on the sideline.
What you're doing here is you found an answer first, and then you went in and you were like, how can I pull stats to lead me to the conclusion that I've already decided upon? That's what you did with these stats. You didn't go in with a curious mindset. You didn't go in with what are some things that can point me in the directionally correct? You were like, no, I like this guy because he's fast and I'm going to try and find stats that prove my point. You mentioned his yards per route run. He was number 66 in yards per route run. That's not good. Calvin Ridley had an abominably inefficient series because he was at the slot machines in between plays.
It sounds like you're making excuses,
right? So that's not really a concern. Courtland Sutton and Michael Gallup were like terrible last year. Michael Gallup has always been like a 20% target share. Donovan Peoples-Jones could be Michael Gallup. That is like within his upper percentile range of outcomes, is to be like poverty Michael Gallup. And then like post ACL, Courtland Sutton was bad, but Courtland Sutton also has a year on record with a 26% target share. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who ran a gazillion routes, also had, by the way, 14.7 ADOT last year, which is 4th in the NFL, still outside the top 60 in yards per route run. His target rate, despite a whopping 88% route participation, target rate was 103rd in the NFL in a wide receiver room. In a wide receiver room with Jarvis Landry, something called a Hollywood Higgins, Anthony Schwartz, who's I think a deli owner, and then like several tight ends and running backs they don't throw to. Like he literally has the exact same profile as Van Jefferson. Like he runs fast, he runs a lot of routes, he gets a high ADOT, and he's not very good. Van's a little bit more efficient per route because he has Stafford throwing. So maybe with DeShaun Watson, he can have Van Jefferson's 2021 season. That is his upper percentile outcome.
Dude, Baker Mayfield, right? 30% completion rate to deep left, 30% completion rate into deep center. Everything outside of
is he a cleanup hitter?
Below 55%.
He's going to deep left.
It's bad. It's bad.
David Ortiz.
Donovan Peoples-Jones was bringing up those averages because Baker can't throw deep. Dwayne, help me out. No, you're probably just going to leave me out to dry.
Please don't help me.
Yeah, I don't think I can help you. Like a lot of these splits we're getting into, like they just don't they don't repeat year over year. So it's like not a lot of it ends up not being sticky because we get it cut down by so much. But like I think like it makes me think of MVS. Like that was the first name like that jumped into my head.
Is it because they both have 3 letters that people use?
Yeah. If they all of a sudden, yes, if they all and they run wind sprints. But like if everything was to come together, yeah, I think he could get like an 18-19% target share, and maybe come up with all the air yards you're talking about. But I think that's again on like that would be a win, but I don't think that's like his median outcome. Like I think that's in his upper range of what he would be able to do. I mean, targets per route run, like that's the other thing. So like even when you separate out like time off away from the field, like he's just never done it. I mean, a 15% targets per route run, a 14%. Typically with a lot of these guys, like you might say, well, they didn't get the targets because they weren't on the field enough. There was other competition. You're like, oh, look, they had a 23% targets per route run. He was
on the field. He ran the 27th highest. Like he ran the 27th highest route participation in the NFL. He was real on the field, and he was not doing it. He was guitening. Chris Hoganing.
All right, Chase, I'm just gonna say this to you as your fucking friend. Stop getting
the intervention.
Stop getting excited over fucking wide receivers that outproduce their ADP. Like, he's gonna finish as the wide receiver 75, and I drafted him as the 115. Like that doesn't move the needle at all. Aim higher, bro. Aim higher. You're a good-looking dude. You're a good-looking dude. Imagine this is like when you're out at the bar, all right? You don't aim low. I've been with you. I've seen what you do. But for some reason in fantasy football, you're just like, whatever slop comes my way at 3 a.m. when the bar is closing, I'm just going to take it because it's going to outperform my expectations. Dude,
I would never take
stop it. If you talk about DPJ on the show one more time, I am leaving the show for good.
How about Nico Collins?
All right, so let's talk about Nico Collins, and he's stubborn. All right, let us know.
Dwayne, Chase loves every if you want to know the secret to Chase's heart, like every wide receiver that is tall and fast has a high ADOT and doesn't earn any targets whatsoever, but has high per target efficiency. Chase just loves those guys, and he's like, "But what if they got more targets?"
All Chase wants to do in a dynasty startup draft is trade out of the first 8 rounds, right? So that he can then say, "Well, everybody that I drafted in the 9th really, really crushed it." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
won our league, by the way, doing that. And
dude, I didn't pay attention to that league. There was no money involved. It doesn't count.
All right, so anyways.
I had a great offseason in that league. I have DeShaun Watson, so coming for the throne.
Let's go ahead and let's move on to the actual wide receiver that we want to focus on, Amari Cooper. Is Amari Cooper somebody that we could see take a significant upturn in actual value? Because, I mean, he was pretty much falling off the map once we figured out he was going to Baker Mayfield. Because as we know from DPJ's experience, Baker Mayfield's not good. So is Amari Cooper somebody that we can actually rely on moving forward? And is Baker Mayfield's suspension a major concern with him in Dynasty? Because like we're talking about age, he could end up falling off the cliff after DeShaun Watson can actually play full season.
I mean,
Yeah,
Cooper.
I'll go if you want.
Yeah, Blaine, please go.
Yeah. Yeah, with Cooper, I think the issue, like, so when I watch Cooper and like looking at all the advanced stuff we have at PFF, I know Matt Harmon's read on him is a little bit different, but what he shows up at being really good at is separating against single man coverage, which he does. He's great at it. But that seems to, we've seen that forever with him. What he doesn't do, he doesn't like win above the rim. He doesn't track the ball down the field. He's been a good rack player, like at times. He's going to be in a scheme that's going to get him the ball in space, but I don't think he has all the tools, and we've just seen it. We're at the point where he's just never going to be a target alpha. It's not going to happen. I mean, I guess anything could happen if you put it like in that 1% range of outcomes. I think that DeShaun Watson obviously gives him a lift because, a target from DeShaun Watson is undoubtedly freaking more valuable than a target from Baker Mayfield. So in that sense, like it does help Amari Cooper, but I mean, targets per route run, like for his career, this isn't even just target shares. This is just targets per route run, 21%, 21%, 20%, 22%, 21%, 19%. He had a 30% in that half year with Dallas. It's the only time he's ever done above that. And you guys know the target share numbers. They're all similar. He's never been a 25% player. I think he's really good at what he does, but he doesn't have the wide kind of skill set you can apply in all these different ways. And plus, like DeShaun Watson's not always a rhythm thrower. That's what Amari Cooper needs, a rhythm quarterback. DeShaun Watson a lot of times is like, hey, let's hang out back here. Let's figure out what I can do. I'm going to avoid this sack. And, I got DeAndre Hopkins down the sideline double cover. Don't give a shit. Just going to chunk it to him, and DeAndre Hopkins is going to do his thing. Like Amari Cooper's not that receiver. He's never been that receiver. So I do think this is better than Baker, but I think I've seen some stuff on Twitter. I'm probably kind of building a straw man. I haven't seen a ton of this, but I've seen some, hey, Amari, top 10 receiver. Like, come on, man. Like we've seen this too long. Amari really good at what he does, but he's not like a 5-tool player. Just not.
I mean, Amari Cooper's never had bad quarterback play. Like he had Derek Carr during the best seasons that Derek Carr's ever had. And then he had Derek Carr during a couple average seasons. And then he had Dak. Like he had the one season with like the second half of the season of Andy Dalton where he had bad quarterback play. And he actually was like kind of good with Andy Dalton, weirdly. But basically the majority of his career is either at average or fantastic quarterback play. And he's never had a wide receiver one season. He probably never will have a wide receiver one season because he doesn't earn enough targets. Like Will Fuller with DeShaun Watson had 20.2% target share 2018, 20.7 2019, 21.5% 2020. That's going to be where Cooper lives, is like right in that low 20s. Now, he probably won't have quite as high of an ADOT as we saw Fuller have in that role. So like it might be a little bit more gradual week to week versus Fuller, who's like 35 points, 5 points. It might be more, 10, 25. But yeah, I expect Cooper to be in the middle of the wide receiver twos kind of next year. A guy that is going to be a nice tournament option at $6,300 in your DFS lineups. I don't know, kind of Brandon Cooksy too. Like Cooks and Fuller, honestly, in the year with Watson 2 years ago, were both living in like that low 20s target share, which Amari Cooper has called home his entire career.
Shane, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I mean, Dwayne, there's really no reason to keep talking after Dwayne. He had everything. I mean, Cooper is what he is after 8 years in the league, right? If he was going to be an elite target hog, he would have done that by now. And DeShaun Watson, yeah, he likes off-script plays. Like that's all those big plays are. Like, yeah, and like I said, Cooper's just going to disappear. He's going to fade into the ether on those plays. And guess who's going to make a play? And I'm going to have to hear it from you. Yeah. He's going to get his one reception for 50 yards. And then Chase is going to just throw it in my face how he made the big play.
Let us know in the chat whether you have DPJ or Cooper moving forward.
I need Will Fuller to go
when Fuller
there.
goes to Cleveland, like
Yes.
I'm just so ready for the like Will Fuller over Amari Cooper takes that I'm going to be rolling off my account. Like I was born.
Is
for
that
this
even
moment.
a question? I mean, I got to be honest with you. Will Fuller was better than DeAndre Hopkins in their last season together, so he'd absolutely destroy Amari Cooper.
Okay, well that's not true, but
It is. It is.
All right, let's go ahead. I was going to talk.
Have we been positive about any player yet? Well, we were kind of positive about Chubb. Like I'm feeling kind of down.
We
here.
like Chubb. We like Chubb. We like.
Yeah, we were nice to Chubb. We were nice to Chubb.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, that's one other thing with Tyreek.
negative.
That's one other thing with Tyreek. Like, you look at the last 2 years, Mahomes on scramble drill plays, 1,000 yards passing.
Yeah.
Tua, 60.
60,000? 60,000 yards.
60 yards. So there's a delta. Now he's missed some games, but Tyreek had probably 50 fantasy points just off of those kind of plays. Those are
I do think, like, in Tyreek Hill's defense, Patrick Mahomes, his first year was 2018. Like, Tyreek Hill is still number 4 in standard, number 8 in PPR in 2017 with Alex Smith. And he averaged up around 17 fantasy points a game, right? I think Tua definitely has Alex Smith within his range of outcomes. In fact, that is like probably his exact median outcome. So I do think that Tyreek has shown that he's not like a creation of Mahomes. Like, he's a really, really good player. I expect him to be wide receiver 1, but yeah,
those are just bonus points, honestly, that you get from Mahomes that you don't get right now. They can scheme him up and do some different things, but that's kind of that top end part that gets just taken off.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's make this more positive, right? Because Dwayne brought up a good point.
I was just negative again, like, after saying that. So who cares?
Yeah. Yes, this is the fun part. This is the part where I get to be happy.
Is there a game?
Yeah.
We're doing a game now?
Not yet. That is coming. All right, so when it comes to the top quarterbacks, right? I want to know one quarterback, or who's your quarterback 1, and we're going to start with Dwayne on this.
Oh.
And is there a quarterback sleeper that could pull like a Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson type player in this draft and actually emerge on top? And somebody that you might want to grab in the 3rd round, somebody like a Kellen Mond, if they actually got on board, but they never did.
Oh, you mean
just talking about this rookie class?
This draft.
Right?
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, rookie class. I apologize.
You don't have to worry. I'm not going to say Kellen Mond no matter what my options are. But So look. I mean, I don't like this. I don't think I'm breaking any news. I don't like this quarterback class, so I'm not that excited about it. I wouldn't even care if I'm in a super flex dynasty. I'm not. I mean, that's pretty rare. Like, you're not going to take a quarterback, one of the top 3 picks in a super flex. I think this is a year where I'm probably not. I think so. The guy that
top 3, huh?
Probably not. Landing spots for some of these backs, like if all of a sudden Breece Hall fell like way far, I just don't see a way I'm not taking Breece Hall. Like, well, I don't want to get ahead, but anyway, yeah. You can maybe talk me into 2, but I just don't like this class really at all. So I'm going to put Malik Willis at the top just because he's probably going to end up with the most draft capital, and we do know that he can run. But I think we're really living on, we're kind of out on a plank already with this stuff in fantasy. Like, we jump onto, well, Lamar Jackson can run. And look, I get it. That's where the league's going. But not every quarterback that can run is going to end up being good. Like, we still don't even know if Trey Lance is going to be good. Like, we're buying into the theory of Trey Lance, and I do think it's the right thing to do. But I think Malik Willis is getting really pushed up the boards, like, even farther than I ever thought he would. But at least he does give you the floor of being a rushing quarterback. And so I would take that, like, as the one. But the guy that I like the most is growing more and more on me is really Corral. And it's just because, even when I watched him, and I'm not like this huge film guy, I'm definitely more of a data person, but I do like to watch the games. I like to watch the players and like put things together. And so it's like just the thing that I noticed with him immediately just like was really like pocket presence, which is something like I'm always trying to look for. Like, can this guy, handle pressure? Does he create his own pressure? Like, can he get to his second read? What's it like in the face of chaos? Like, is he panic, or like, is he just cool? Like, can he handle it? Like, that's the thing I honestly look for the most, because I don't think we have anything that measures it that well, except for some of these advanced things we're starting to get into. And so when I watched Corral, like, that's the thing that stuck out. And he was a plus also in the scramble department. And so then, like, Kevin Cole at PFF has been doing all this research this offseason on the rookie quarterbacks, and every article he comes out with about a quarterback is like Corral's like moving up in my mind. I don't know if you guys saw the work he did today that came out, but it was awesome. And it really talked about the positive EPA scrambles, plus the ability to avoid sacks. And basically he normalized things based on pressure rate and scramble rates, because that's when your sacks come. And if you look at the quarterbacks since 2014, when PFF has been tracking this, and a lot of these guys that have come out, like all the best quarterbacks are in the top right of the quadrant, meaning they add value as a rusher and they're able to avoid the pass rush. And Corral's the only guy from this class that's in that top right quadrant. So like he's the guy that I think is cemented for me. I don't know if he'll be picked in the first round. I think today on Grinding the Mocks, they updated yesterday. I want to say he was picked 25. He could still easily fall into the second round. But he's the guy that I like the most, that I don't think will go super early in our rookie drafts.
Jacob, is Malik Willis could he get stuck in the same situation, or is he the same quarterback as Trey Lance, aka the West Coast version of Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, the Lance thing, like, you need to stop.
Hey, for the record, Trey Lance was in that top right quadrant too, so that's a positive. Absolutely. Malik Willis was in the very bottom right, like great scrambler, but terrible as far as being able to understand pressure, diagnose it, those sort of things.
Well, I think it's hilarious. I have a crazy Willis stat.
Hilarious that people are comparing Jordan Love to Trey Lance. Just for the record,
you're literally the only one doing it. It's literally just you.
I've seen it all over.
Eric Eager did it today, I think, on Twitter.
I've seen it all over the place. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen it all over the place.
You should follow smarter people then, other than Eric. He's smart, but he's probably trolling. Anyway, I think Willis, actually, this is like, it's so funny that Dwayne just mentioned this scramble sack thing, because I have this awesome stat for Willis. Well, it's actually kind of a bad stat for Willis, but it's fun. He over the last 2 years, no quarterback has scrambled at a higher rate than Malik Willis, and no quarterback has been sacked at a higher rate than Malik Willis in both of his 2 seasons. Like, not cumulatively, in both 2020 and 2021, he had the highest sack rate and the highest scramble rate of any quarterback in America. It's wild. He's a guy who, if his read is not open.
I wonder how close he is to Justin Fields, because I know Justin Fields was up there for a while. At least
I'm sure in a similar
Fields
round.
was really high in his scramble EPA, sack avoidance. Like, he was a little better. Like, he wasn't in the top right. I don't know if you guys can, like, if I can share my screen with your.
You can share screen.
I got it right here.
My thing with Malik, like, I definitely don't have like an extremely high degree of priors in terms of Malik's ability to play NFL quarterback. Like, you see Willis, like, just like the scramble, he just scrambles like excellently. like that's what I'm saying. Like, he scrambles excellently and he just eats sacks. It's wild. But yeah, he's currently has zero ability to read a defense. Like, he has his first read and he either throws his first read, or it's like scramble time, or it's get sack time. Like, those are the 3 options on every play. He definitely needs to sit a year, in my opinion. I mean, like, from my perspective, like I say for fantasy, like, yeah, sure, throw him on out there and see what happens. But in terms of, like, he'll be a trash NFL quarterback next year if he's playing. For fantasy, though, I love him. I mean, if you look at the players that have his level of rushing yards market share, since in the last 15 years, the only guys that are anywhere close to him are Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton, Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, Robert Griffin III, and Lamar Jackson way out in front. Like, every one of those guys, not all of them turned into great NFL quarterbacks. The jury's still out on Jalen Hurts. Robert Griffin, of course, didn't turn out well. But every single one of those guys had QB1 seasons because they run the ball a shit ton. And I have, like, zeroed out in my mind that Malik Willis, if he's drafted in the top half of the first round, is probably going to get at least 2 or 3 years to start in the NFL, and he's going to run a ton, and he's going to be a QB1 in fantasy football. So for that reason, he's my QB1 in the class. I do think, like, per the numbers, like, if we're starting to look at, like, QBR, if we're looking at passing EPA, if we're looking at cumulative EPA, like, the guys who I still think are actually the best quarterback prospects analytically in this class are Matt Corral and then Sam Howell. And I would say Corral slightly above. But, we'll see what the NFL thinks. Like, for all we know, Corral might be a round 2 pick and Howell might be a round 4 pick. And if that's what happens, then I can't really step on a limb and say that I'm going to back those guys. So I will say that Kenny Pickett, legitimately to me, like, I was doing my thread on Pickett last night in the Bulletproof Discord. He looks like possibly the worst first round, like, top half of the first round quarterback in like 15 years. Like, he looks bad to me.
EJ Manuel is pretty bad. Like,
what was he exactly?
Was right there.
Sorry, I use top 15 as my cutoff, and Manuel was drafted right at 16, which is how he didn't make it in there.
Right. Yeah, because I actually compared, like, I was like, damn, these look like I mean, not the exact same quarterbacks in terms of style, but like the bust proof and the upside. I'm like, I just feel like you're so limited here. Like he'd be a 2nd-round pick in any other draft almost.
Daniel Jones.
I thought Jacob was above like arbitrary cutoffs, but I'm proving wrong.
Look, it's the 15 and up has been.
I'm messing with you, man.
It has been, man. That's where it goes. You know, you just add that arbitrary cutoff right in. You make your sample look way better.
Shane, is there a quarterback one that you really
Ross
like?
St. Brown PFF grade -0.1 and up.
And he's out.
Oh God, stop. Shane, is there a quarterback that you like in this draft more than consensus? And if not, is Breece Hall like the 101 in every possible league moving forward?
Breece Hall was the 101 before the combine, and then after the combine, everyone else decided that he should be the 101 as well. No, this is not the quarterback class that I'm going to be taking any leaps on. Like Dwayne said, Matt Corral, I have actually been researching him because I have to write a profile for him. So I've actually been looking at Kevin Cole's tweets and his stats on it, and everything that he puts out on him. I'm like, oh, I like this guy even better. But yeah, if he gets drafted in the 3rd round, it really doesn't matter because we've seen the hit rate on 3rd-round quarterbacks as being -12, give or take. Malik Willis, physically, the dude is a monster. But yeah, I need him to sit a year. If he goes to Carolina and it's to save Matt Rule's job, they're going to ruin him, and it's all over.
Don't go to Carolina.
They don't have a choice. They get drafted there.
Does quarterback pro day talk drive you guys nuts as well?
Yeah. It's fun. I enjoy
I think it's funny. Yeah, I kind of like it.
Like it's useless.
I kind of like it. I mean, I don't use
fun.
it. Yeah, exactly.
It is fun, but useless. Yes.
Kenny Pickett's hands grew by 1/8 of an inch. So that's big.
Dude, you know who had an excellent pro day last year, quarterback-wise? Kellen Mond. So when it comes to the other running back, Kenneth Walker, who's a big topic of conversation, I'm sure Dwayne has not seen any shortage of, Kenneth Walker type conversations, tweets, all that other stuff. So, Dwayne, I want to ask you, what would it take for Kenneth Walker to actually make a significant jump in your draft rankings? Actually, I should ask, where do you have him? And is there anything he can do to make a significant jump in your draft rankings? Because I believe he's anywhere from average pick being 6 to 8 range, maybe even 10 in most super flex leagues right now. Could it be later than that? Is there anything he can do to jump into the top 4 or so?
Well, I mean, if for some reason he went the end of a 1st round in the NFL draft, I mean, that would do it. Other than that, like Breece Hall, I have in a tier of his own in the 1st tier. And then I've got Kenneth Walker and Isaiah Spiller in my 2nd tier. And obviously the way I'm calculating my tiers in my model right now, I'm using grinding the mocks expected draft position to basically say this is what I expect draft capital to be. It's not perfect, but it's generally more accurate than what people really think. Over the years, kind of funny, like some of the stuff that these mock drafts have actually nailed. But it would take something like that. It would take something really crazy. I mean, I think Breece Hall is just the better all-around prospect. Performed over a longer period. Kenneth Walker, right? We really got 1 year. It was a really good year, but we only have the 1 year. I mean, at least he is still coming out as a junior. He'll only be, 22 years old, basically 21.9 when the season starts. So that's good. But I think Spiller and what he did in his pro day kept Spiller below him. I would have had Spiller come out and really redeemed himself. Like even then I probably wouldn't have moved him ahead of Walker just because, I wouldn't have, because my model wouldn't have let me, because I'm using the expected draft position, it's already baked in. But if Spiller goes ahead of him, like in the draft, like it'll be really close. Like if he went 20 or 30 spots ahead of him, that would move Spiller ahead. But like if they're within 10 picks of each other, it's still going to keep Walker above him.
Well, luckily we actually have draft expert and draft scout correspondent Shane Manila in here to tell us a little bit about Spiller's pro day and how he did. Shane?
Do you guys want to cut to the footage that I sent you?
Yeah, I mean that tells it all. My dude is slow. My dude is very slow.
Hey, look, it wasn't a 4.7. Like so, he avoided that.
A 4.63 on a hand time 40. So what do we generally?
I don't think we have to add for A&M.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like,
are we going to take Jalen Wydermyer to 5.08? Like, don't do it to
Jalen Wydermyer. He gave up in the middle.
0.05, I think.
Is it 0.05?
I don't
either
know.
way,
I'm instituting a Texas A&M adjustment. We actually minus 0.05.
Like we could take.
I live closer to Texas A&M. I think you definitely still need to add the 0.05. Sorry, Shane, go ahead.
We could take a 0.05 from it, and it's still bad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just need his dad to tweet out about what was hurting him this week. You know,
I would have loved to see a 3-cone, because then he could have still
so he didn't do anything else, right?
Yeah, we have these profiles of these other backs, like LaShawn McCoy was not a great 40 time, didn't have a great broad jump. We knew Spiller wasn't going to run fast because his broad and his vert were not good. And it's pretty rare, that those are bad, and then you come out and run a good 40.
Well, I was hoping
his best run is like that 65-yard run against Arkansas, where he's getting chased down by a safety from the 30-yard line. No, I do love Spiller, but I don't think that he's fast. I mean,
well, he's not fast, and he has no explosion or burst, unless his abductor was really injured. But that's why I wanted him to see. I wanted him to do things at the pro day, but I thought he was going to be healthy. At the pro day. Look, I bought into his dad tweeting and his agent tweeting that he had a strained abductor and that hurt him at the combine. I was willing to buy into that and move him right above Walker again. If he would have came out and done, well, apparently since he only ran the 40, I guess a decent 40, if he would have done some more jumps, some 3-cones, some anything, and would have improved upon it. I was looking for a reason to put Spiller back above Walker. So now I'm just in the position where I'm not going to draft either guy. It's going to be Breece Hall and then a bunch of wide receivers for me.
Man, we had this party, when you're at the bar and you go in, you see all your friends, like, oh my God, Dwayne, Chase, oh my God, nice to see you guys. And it's the end of the night and everybody's left and you still want to keep dancing, but it's just a bunch of random people you don't know. That's me, on Isaiah Spiller RB2 Island. Everyone that was with me is steadily left. They've all gone off to Walker World. It's just me and some film bros hanging out, talking about his change of direction ability and his ability to read blocks. It's tough. It's a tough scene. I don't know. I've done the Walker bit on the show so many times that I don't want to just repeat all the same talking points. I'll talk about Spiller though. I don't think that Spiller is ever going to be an FP over XFP back. And what I mean by that is, so XFP is your expected fantasy points. And for running backs, that's essentially just how many targets are you getting, how many carries are you getting, how many goal line carries are you getting. And Spiller's a guy who I think is going to have his fantasy points pretty much just be his expected fantasy points, or maybe even a little bit below. That being said, he checks a lot of boxes, man. He has the right size. He catches passes. He can execute in any scheme. He's a guy who's really patient. And if you watch him play, if you're out here grinding running back tape, he really does look like a good player to me on tape. I understand the efficiency numbers aren't there, but he's a guy where his quickest attributes are his feet and his mind, in terms of just making quick decisions, in terms of working in small areas. He doesn't have the breakaway speed. You watch even his best highlights, he's usually getting chased down by safeties. But I could easily see a Josh Jacobs type career from Isaiah Spiller. I could see a David Montgomery type career from Isaiah Spiller. Dude, and there's just a lot of guys that profile like him that don't necessarily. Sorry?
But how's the David Montgomery? David Montgomery career is not gross for fantasy.
No, but that's what I mean. I don't think Spiller is going to break fantasy. I don't think he's ever going to be he's never going to be a sexy guy. But there is a lot of players that profile like Spiller that have had success in the NFL. Maybe not top 5 running back success, but high end RB2 success, low end RB1 success. Man, it's just shakier ground with Kenneth Walker. I don't know what to say. I keep hammering this, and it's not just a pass catching thing. Everyone's saying we've all sort of anointed him as this elite pure rusher that's lacking the pass catching, and some people say he can catch whatever. The stats on the pass catching are what they are. In terms of the rushing, until 2021, there was no reason to think he was an above a replacement level rusher. He got outproduced in terms of actual carries, yards per carry, rush yards over expectation, expected points added per run, every single metric of efficiency and volume by a guy named Christian Beal. Not Christian Bale, Christian Beal, who is now a 5th-year transfer to the University of South Carolina, who is out there just eating his lunch at Wake Forest every single down. And then his 2021 season is incredible. But if we just look at the profiles of these other guys who did it without receiving, a Nick Chubb or a Derrick Henry, LT, Adrian Peterson, these were guys that were coming out and dominating for 3-4 years in college, not one freaking fever dream at MSU. So I don't know. I'm still gonna stick with Spiller over Walker, but like Shane said, I'm certainly drafting wide receivers. Like I would draft all of London, Burks, Wilson, and Jameson Williams over these two. And if like Olave or Sky Moore goes to the Packers or Chiefs, I would draft them over these two as well.
So that's a perfect segue because, we had Treylon Burks, who before the combine was getting super hot. He goes out, has a very poor combine. Well, maybe not poor, but, subpar combine. And I was actually on Grinding the Mock. That's where Dwain actually was talking about. And that's a place that I go to try and figure out where players are getting drafted because I don't know what teams are thinking, but they have been pretty accurate overall throughout the past few years. But like when we saw Treylon Burks before the combine, he was getting selected top 10. Now he's fallen to an average of like 21.4. Is there a chance that he ends up falling like T. Higgins, right, where he falls outside of the first round? So. And if that's the case, does that knock it out of that top tier of receivers for anybody? Because for me, I still think he's a great receiver. He'll still go in my top tier. But, I mean, maybe we have Jameson Williams who lands with the Packers, right? And he's a better version of MVS or something along those lines that we can actually latch onto.
What's a better version of MVS? So a wide receiver 2 once in a while?
Like
Will Fuller is
3 out of 4 times. Yeah, Will Fuller. There we go. That can actually stay healthy.
Will Fuller is already my Jameson comp, by the way. Like even from a production standpoint, like I like Jameson. Burks is my wide receiver 3. He was my wide receiver 2 for most of the offseason behind London. I've switched to Wilson over Burks recently as I've been doing these write-ups, prepping for my rookie guide. I mean, if Williams got to get in a landing spot, I could put him above Burks. Like they're all in the same tier to me. But I like Burks. If he goes in early 2, all the better because maybe he'll fall a little in drafts. I would love to get Burks.
Dwain, where do you have Burks? Is there any chance that he actually falls out of the first round and ends up becoming like outside of the top tier of receivers essentially?
I feel like the chance is becoming less and less likely after these trades, by Green Bay and Kansas City. Like we're probably going to see quite a few receivers go in the first round now. So I have Garrett Wilson 1, I have Treylon Burks 2, Jameson 3rd, and I got Drake London 4th, and then Chris Olave 5th. I think they all go in the first round still.
So you're not concerned with Garrett Wilson jumping while catching passes?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
They were so over that entire comment.
That was pretty funny. He was just like hopping.
I just love how people were like saying, I watched the film and it happens almost every time. It's like, dude, come on, stop. Like he's not doing little fairy prances every time he goes to catch a ball.
I'd jump too if I had that vertical. I'd want to show it off every chance I got.
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch just because he has so many different gears that he can get to quickly. Like how quickly he can downshift versus upshift. And I think sometimes he actually overdoes it and it hurts him, like in his routes when he's trying to separate. But like you can just see it. It's like
the Jerry Jeudy
does
syndrome.
Things. Yeah, he does have that. But I think like he's even like Jerry Jeudy is probably a better route runner coming out, but like Garrett Wilson is probably a more fluid athlete overall.
Shane, do you have anything to add to that, or should we hop into our game?
Let's go game time, baby.
Game time? Yeah. All right. We're going to close out the show with a little game that we might end up carrying over to other episodes. We're going to give it a little try, and we're going to say which player doesn't belong in this grouping. So we're going to start out with Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to start it out with which rookie will fall out of the first round of Dynasty rookie drafts. We're going to start out with Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, or George Pickens. And we're talking about maybe worst case scenario. Which one do you think does not belong in the first round?
Pickens.
Yeah, I mean, I have all of these in my first round, but if we're doing like fuck, marry, kill, I'm killing Pickens.
It's pretty much that, but
Pickens wasn't in the first round of rookie drafts before the combine. Then after the combine, because people realized they could run fast, all of a sudden we moved them into the first round of rookie drafts, and we'll see where the NFL draft capital falls because he's still below those guys.
I don't know.
I have Pickens at exactly 12 right now, but like it's not that close. Like if you want me to move Dotson out of Pickens, I'm happy to do that. I really don't have much of a preference.
I believe it was more of players moving out of the first round than was Pickens moving into the first round. Like, obviously, he was forced in the first round, but it was bad combine workouts for other players that kind of forced him.
I want to be very clear that I did absolutely not move George Pickens after his combine. He remained exactly where he was.
No, I had him as a second-round wide receiver in rookie drafts the entire time, and then people started drafting him in the first, and I'm like, well, I'm definitely never going to get him now. Like, what? Come on,
Jacob. I heard your model relies heavily on the combine for receivers. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it definitely does. Their workouts and their
it's actually just a wide receiver bench press model. I forget the one guy who did it. He's number one.
Oh man! All right. So which running back? And by the way, everybody in the chat and in the comments, let us know who you think will actually, land in this section. Which guy's the odd man out?
Dave, buddy, I see the comment. He's saying Bell or Pickens. Dave, it's time to let David Bell go, man. We got to let that dream die. It's time.
I mean, nobody wants to let Devontae Adams go.
Like, yeah, that's true. He's popping in those models. I mean, look, if David Bell does still happen to land on day 2 of the draft, like, will I draft him? Absolutely. But I think we need to have a little bit of an intervention with ourselves in terms of which tier he belongs in.
All right, which running back will not finish in the top 10 for 2022? And in this case scenario, it's going to be upside based. So even with a good year, which running back will not finish inside of the top 10 for 2022?
But
and
with
it
a good
is
year,
without a good year.
Yeah, if they have a good year, like if they have a best possible year.
What does that mean?
Like you're saying, like if they don't get hurt,
if they get 250 touches.
Yeah, like if whatever you think their possible outcome is, right? So James Conner stays healthy for the entire season because that's one. We have Alvin Kamara who.
What you're asking is who has the lowest ceiling is what you're asking us.
So that would be James Conner because he's not going to rush for 18 touchdowns again.
Are you sure?
Yeah, for me in this group it would be Akers.
By the way, it's Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara, and James Conner for those who can't see the show sheet.
Yeah,
and just to be clear on that.
I think like the way you phrased this question, I think
confused
the answer
everyone.
Is Connor.
That too.
It was easier when it just said who will not finish in the top 10.
All right, let's do it that way. Who will not finish in the top 10?
Connor.
Okay, I would not put Akers or Connor in my top 10, but I guess I think like if someone's just gonna like bust to oblivion, it's probably Akers. But I do think his ceiling is higher than Connor. So your specific wording, I'll say Connor.
Why isn't Akers in the same boat as Nick Chubb for you guys?
Well, I don't think Chubb is in the top 10
Akers
either.
is not as good of a player as Nick Chubb, but
that's also really true. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things wrong with that premise, Chase. So let's just.
I just wanted to bring.
You're also you're naming you're listing like a lot of running backs that I wouldn't draft in the top 10. Like I wouldn't draft any of these running backs in the top 10. I wouldn't draft Chubb in the top 10. If I knew Kamara wasn't going to get suspended, I'd probably draft him in the top 10.
You don't have to get Akers. Last I looked, and this is in Dynasty, obviously, Akers was like RB14. For RB14, I'll take him.
I don't think any of these guys will be taken in the first round of fantasy drafts this year.
No.
I don't know that any of them are going to be in the second round of fantasy drafts this year.
I think Kamara right now is Kamara. If he gets his legal stuff cleared up, I think he'll climb into the second as casuals enter.
Yeah.
James Conner will get a push at the end because everybody will be like, "Hey,"
because of the projection industrial complex.
Right, but look, I mean, if you project James Conner without Chase Edmonds, I mean, it is kind of hard, like to not give him, a lot of points. I mean, the problem starts to become like what you're going to take. It's more around draft theory, right? What am I going to take over James Conner? Not necessarily your projections aren't everything, but like with Conner, it's really hard, like to not project him inside the top 10 if you think he doesn't get hurt. I
mean, Akers has the most downside risk because he might just be complete dust.
Yeah, so it was pretty much like what extremists are. I saw some tweets on like certain extremist things. I wanted to find out if we had extremists amongst the group.
Well, when Akers first came back and he played the one game and everybody was wowed by, oh my God, he's already back and he's playing, like things were skyrocketing. And then people saw him for 2 more games and they're like, just kidding. No.
For the record, like for the record, I'm generally still like Akers optimistic. I think it's like kind of, it's actually like a very much like a psychological human bias. The idea that he beat everyone's possible expectations in terms of coming back, right? Like if no one was expecting him to ever play a snap in the playoffs. And yet now we're at a point because he came back too early and he looked not that good. And for the record, nobody else on the Rams was efficient running in the playoffs either. Like their entire rushing attack, when they put Sony there, Henderson, all of them were inefficient running in the playoffs. Like now that we saw him come back and he was bad, now people are like almost more worried than I feel like they even would have been if we just didn't see him play. And that's like absurd. So I'm an Akers optimist, but his downside risk is absolutely massive.
All right. So which receiver will fail to break out in 2022. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, we have Elijah Moore, and we have Darnell Mooney. And these are all three players who the community loves as a whole. So I want to hear you guys shit on one.
The community does not love
what are we calling
Amon-Ra St.
breakout?
Brown. The
Like,
community hates Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Let's say what
breakout top 24 in PPR.
Yeah, top 24. Yeah. So I don't think any one of them
Mooney
finished.
would be
It was top 20. It was top 20.
Okay, I would say Mooney's the one that most likely doesn't make it.
Is
Yeah,
that more hate on Justin Fields, or is that more hate on the receiver himself?
No, I like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Elijah Moore.
Infinitely more.
Both of them.
I tried to find a word to put in.
like St. Brown. Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, sorry. I just feel like we're being gaslit. Like a top 20. Like Amon-Ra. Like none of these guys have ADPs in the top 20 Elijah's might be exactly 20.
Well,
Elijah's is like 17 or 18 right now. Amon-Ra is is after 20.
He's 23.
Mooney's after 20.
Yep, that's what I was calling.
The answer is Mooney for me, by the way. Just I have like the least confidence, I guess, that Mooney is good. I think he's good because he earns targets.
Yeah,
but
I like him too.
I've seen players that earn targets in offenses where there's nobody else around that fade, and it's usually profiles that look like Mooney's, where he came from nowhere, doesn't have the draft capital, his PFF grade wasn't overly sparkling. I think Mooney's probably quite good, but I'm like less assured of it. Whereas I think Elijah Moore came into the NFL as a guy that we should have always expected to be really good. Then he was really good. Amon-Ra St. Brown a little bit less so because of the draft capital, but he was just so impressive to me across the board in terms of production as a rookie, PFF grades, etc. I think that Amon-Ra is just his total stud.
Amon-Ra reminds me of Crowder, Jamison Crowder in his first year, where he just saw a ton of targets because there was nobody else in that offense, and the quarterback couldn't throw it further downfield than 5 yards. Shane, do you have a wide receiver in this group that you think will not break out in 2022?
Since we're using this arbitrary breakout as top 20, Mooney, just like everyone else for same exact reasons. Everyone else noted. Elijah Moore's got top 12 wide receiver upside, so it's definitely not him. If he doesn't perform, it's because Zach Wilson is just that bad.
Or he gets hurt.
Well, okay. So barring injury for any of these players.
Oh man, I like
Mooney. Dwayne plays Chase's reindeer games, and Shane and I just criticize his parameters.
Oh, dude, I have triggers for both of you guys. It makes for an entertaining show. So we're gonna finish it off, right? This is the last little bit of it. Which late round tight end will not be touted by at least half the fantasy football community as a potential breakout?
Being targeted.
We have David Njoku, Cole Kmet, and Albert O.
It's got to be Cole Kmet only because Albert O obviously is a tight end one. Now that Noah Fant is there no longer.
Tight end one. Sorry.
Yeah, David Njoku, obviously. And I hate this because I like David Njoku a lot. He's obviously going to break out because he's got DeShaun Watson, and he's going to be the downfield threat on that team. Cole Kmet, nothing's changed since last year, so it's just boring. So no one's going to tout him like that. That's nothing's happened.
They signed Byron Pringle.
Yeah, if Cole Kmet had gotten traded to another team, or Justin Fields got redrafted this year, then we'd all be touting Cole Kmet. But because nothing's happened, there's no reason to tout him.
But third-year breakouts, bro.
Yeah, okay.
It's all about the second-year breakout now.
The problem is that Albert O is a new quarterback, and he took Noah Fant's job, and David Njoku's got a new quarterback, and they franchise tagged him, so they clearly value him now. Even though
Kmet's just not like the kind of guy that Twitter cults will form around. He didn't run very fast.
Kmet club.
Yeah,
no, we did that last year.
No, but it's different. The type of cult that will inspire 50% of the fantasy community to claim someone as their own, revolves around not middling athleticism, Y tight ends from Notre Dame. You have to have a cool name, or you have to have a fun highlight tape. You have to be drafted later. You have to not play for the Bears. There's just Cole Kmet's not as sexy.
Yeah.
Albert
Jacob,
O,
your mom's having a 43rd year breakout.
That's I mean, Alberto, like I thought I was getting a little too far over my skis with my Alberto enthusiasm. And then I listened that Sean Siegel said that his legitimate upside is to be the tight end 1 overall in Dynasty within 2 years. And I decided that I'm not high enough.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I love Siegel, but that is a stretch.
Should I change out maybe Cole Kmet for Brevin Jordan? Or is there another one?
Oh, Brevin, he'll get the hype, yeah.
All right, Dwayne, do you have one that you think the fantasy community will not latch onto this year?
It's the same as Shane for the same reason. It's just the latest news cycle. He's right. It's the latest news cycle. He's right. I mean, for all those reasons, the trade with Watson, getting re-signed, Alberto's got Fant gone. Like they're too much in the news, and they're all really deserve to be in a similar tier. But Kmet will be the one that people aren't talking about.
I'm just sick of Kmet's ass because every week last year I would read the utilization report, and Cole Kmet would usually.
He's not as bad as Higbee, man. Higbee is the total utilization report bomber.
But I don't like I don't like Higbee, so I just never would play it.
But you like
him anyways.
So you were just looking.
But I like Kmet a little bit, or at least I didn't dislike him enough. And then I'd always read the utilization report. Man, he looks like he's getting pretty nice usage. He's running a lot of routes. He's getting 18% of the targets. And then I'd open up DFS. Well, plus Higbee was always chalkier because he played on the Rams, but no one ever wants to play a Bears tight end. And I'd see DFS be like, oh, Cole Kmet's 3,700 this week, and he's 5% owned. I would just play Cole Kmet every week.
Just so you know, I had skin in the game with you, Jacob, and I was right there disappointed with you. I lost money along with you, if that makes you feel any better.
I'm so sick of Cole Kmet's shit in my DFS lineups. I don't know how many weeks I was like, I wonder if this is the week to play Justin Fields with Cole Kmet. It was never.
And all of a sudden, by week 10, you're just pot committed. You're like, okay, Cole Kmet again.
He was probably my most played tight end last year at DFS.
Especially the lottery tickets, lottery numbers you play your whole life, and you can't miss it that one night. It's I gotta have Cole Kmet, at least in 5 lineups.
Him and Van, I didn't play as much Higbee because I was always playing fucking Van because I'm just you know what? Even though he can't earn targets, I'm he runs 85% of the routes and he's on the Rams and he's never owned and he's always 4,200. One of these days he's gonna connect.
Leone would always get me in on Van. I would be off of Van and I would listen to ETR and I'd be like, damn it. Drew and Leone would get me freaking back in on Van Jefferson. Jesus.
Yeah, and Moss, of course. That was our intervention, the Mossaholics.
I love that. All right, before we get out of here,
These were really great questions, Chase, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You guys all agreed on all of them. Damn it. I gotta do better next time.
Always so much nicer to Chase than his regular co-host.
Because they don't have to deal with these confusing ass questions every week. I'm sitting there what the fuck does that even mean?
If this player has a good year, but not a great year.
Well, this player retires, but comes back.
They end up getting a skin allergy, and they're unable to actually handle the ball like Deontay Johnson can't catch. Then will they actually be able to have a good career in the NFL? No. So before we get out of here, we have a bunch of stuff that we're doing over there on our YouTube page. Go check it out, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Once again, that's youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Thomas Tipple actually came out, right? And he gave me a bunch of videos of the running backs in their combines. And it's literally them condensed. And it takes 45 seconds to watch them. But they are phenomenal clips to go and watch their combine. If you're somebody that likes the combine, maybe you're getting a late start for the rookies and you just want something quick to watch for your dynasty leagues, go check it out over there, youtube.com/fantasyintervention, and go to the combine clips. Big shout out to everybody in the chat. John McRogan, you were commenting the whole time. Ricky, of course, saw Boss's life. Dave, as always. Kelly came in late, but she came in hot and crushed the chat. Absolutely love it. A big shout out to Fantasy Football Discussion as well. Dwayne, do you want to let everybody know where to find you, man?
You can find me on Twitter at Dwain McFarland, DWAIN MCFARLAND. Of course, you can also find me over at Pro Football Focus. Do all the podcasts over there. Well, probably 2 out of every 3 with Ian. And then I also do the Fantasy Football Hustle with Brian Drake. So you can catch me at any one of those places.
Brian's actually going to be doing a debate with Trophy Smack over there. So I'm excited to get into that. He's bringing in one of his friends to come debate something, which, Dwayne, I'd love to have you as well. We'll talk about it after the show.
Cool.
Jacob, you actually got into a debate last week where
Yeah, I
Rich
did.
Rebar like pulled a 180 on you. It was great over there. You guys can go find it over there, youtube.com/trophysmack. Jacob, where can we find you, man?
You can find me on playerprofiler.com. I kickstarted about a week and a half ago by thinking about thinking series. I wrote something else about Watson on a more political, I guess, legal note. But I'm going to get back to football stuff this weekend for sure. I'm excited. My next piece in the Thinking About Thinking series is going to be about ranges of outcomes. So if you were not one of the people that shut off the show during my 2-minute monologue about Tua and how we think about ranges of outcomes, I'm going to talk about that. The last one I did, I talked about like apples for 600 words. So maybe we'll figure out another fruit to bring in. And then
Jacob, by the way, everybody was here. I was just giving you a hard time. Everybody stayed throughout your entire monologue over there.
And then my next piece will be all about Isaiah Spiller versus Kenneth Walker and breaking down that debate, which is no longer a debate. It's a debate like only to me inside my own mind. Everybody else is on Team Walker, but I will make the case for Sir Plot a lot Isaiah Spiller over Kenneth Walker.
I never thought you liked unathletic running backs. Shane, on to you.
I never thought I would either.
Yeah, Shane is the worst, whatever. I dropped the DLF mailbag today. Then I got a write-up on John Mechie coming out. And the DLF Dynasty Draft Guide is going to be dropping at literally any moment. I won't even know until I see the tweet from DLF that it's been dropped, which is always exciting for me to find out that way. But yeah, that should drop any day now.
And I just want to focus on our YouTube page because our YouTube is so close to hitting 500. You know, it was something as to where I failed to keep our YouTube page up after we saw a big stint or a big increase in followers, subscribers, I should say. And now it's like, dude, like this YouTube channel is getting hot. Like we're getting, 300, 400, 500 views. And I really haven't paid any attention to it until the past month. So we're growing like crazy. So please go subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. If you're in any, groups and whatnot that you don't mind releasing your secrets to, because we're really, you're going to get my takes all the time anyways. Go tell your friends to go subscribe to youtube.com/fantasyintervention and go check out Fantasy Football Discussion. Big shout out to you guys for allowing us to go live to your page and to your channel. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.
That was a big 90-minute show of your range.